What's up, YouTube? Timmy's here. Well, it's that time of the year again. Oh, and where I'm, of course, doing my top 10 worst movies of 2024. And boy, there was some stinkers. So here are my official top 10 worst films of the year. Alright, coming in at number 10 is Argyle. And I was really disappointed by this. I thought the trails looked really decent. I like Matthew Vaughn, but this really wasn't all that great. Of course, Henry Cavill, it's called Argyle, but Henry Cavill is not even the lead, which I thought that was weird. His hairstyle was completely terrible. The acting in this, which I like Bryce Dallas Howard, I like Sam Rockwell, Sam Jackson's always great, John Cena, but the acting in this thing was horrendous. It was just not so funny either. I mean, it's just so terrible. And this comes from someone who actually enjoyed the first two Kingsman movies, and this was of course supposed to be setting up like a Kingsman crossover, which let's be frank, no way that's happening. So, yeah. All right. Coming in at number 9 is Venom: The Last Dance. Of course, the third installment of the Venom movies, and I enjoyed the first two Venoms. Like they're pretty much the only Spider-Man spin-off films I quite do enjoy. But this one was just abysmal. It was like the most boring out of the bunch. The only good thing about was the chemistry between Eddie and the Semina. I will admit that was probably the better part, but nothing about it was all that great. The people in the van, like the van scene, was annoying. It was like they even do some really dumb stuff. I'm like, and you can definitely tell the director of this, by the way, is this was actually our first feature. Like this is actually the same. The director is the same writer of 50 Shades. So that says something. So, yeah, definitely not a good one. All right. Number 8 is Madam Web. Now, I know people probably have this up a little higher, but to be honest, my top 7 I think are worse. Yes, there were actually worse movies than Madam Web. And in my opinion, of course, but Madam Web is definitely one, takes the cake. I mean, the dialogue in this thing was terrible. The performances, which is a shame too, because I like Sydney Sweeney, I like Isabel Mercedes, Celeste O'Connor is really good. I like Dakota Johnson. Speaking of 50 Shades, by the way, but nothing about this was all that interesting. None of the characters does some really dumb stuff, like the diner scene. I'm like, really that you're trying to get away from attention, and you're literally in a diner, like where they'll like people could easily see you and stuff like that. Seriously. And of course she's also driving around like her main vehicle is a taxi. I'm like, really? But yeah, this thing was a horrible one. All right. Number 7 is Rebel Moon Part 2: The Scarg Giver. The first Rebel Moon was in my top 10 worst movies of last year. Part 2 is in my top 10 worst films of this year. The Scar Giver was garbage. Sophia Boutella, again, I really don't think she's ready to lead a film yet. Charlie Hunnam wasn't all that great. The dialogue and performances of this thing was terrible. It's a shame, too, because I do like Zack Snyder, and the Rebel Moon films are literally the only Zack Snyder movies I do truly dislike. And yeah, I'm hoping like I really think Zack Snyder should have stuck with another Army of the Dead film because that Army of the Dead movie was good. So why he didn't stick with that instead of his Star Wars? I don't know. This just didn't do anything for me. All right, number 6 is The Strangers Chapter 1. Now, this is actually one I was really I was really excited for. I like the first two Strangers. You got Madeline Petch, who I like. So I had some hopes for this one, but it was just so predictable. Like you could definitely tell from the beginning who the who these killers are and stuff. It's just completely bad, so terrible. Uh, for acting by Madeline Petch, who I quite liked on Riverdale. Her acting in this wasn't all that great. It's just a really abysmal one. All right, number 5 is Horizon and America's Saga Part 1. Who knows if we're gonna get part 2? But like Horizon, I think it was one of those boringest movies I've seen this year. Like, I don't mind slow films and all, but this thing just didn't do anything for me. Probably one of the worst westerns I've seen in recent years. Kevin Costner, like his acting in this really wasn't all that great. It was way too long than it should have. And honestly, there was supposed to be a sequel this past summer, but Horizon came out, flopped. I'm thinking that sequel is either going to get scrapped or just going to be dumped on streaming. But I don't know. We'll see. All right. Number four is Adeles. Probably one of Netflix's worst films this year. Where, of course, if you guys don't know much about the story here, you got Jennifer Lopez, who plays this brilliant counter terrorism analyst with deep distrust of AI and discovers it might be the only hope when a mission captures a renegade robot goes AWARE. And J-Lo, who I really think is a terrific actress, from Selena to Hustlers and stuff. Her new film, by the way, the I think it's called Unforgivable. Trying to remember the name of it. The wrestling film that she has out this month. That actually does look intriguing. But I really wish J-Lo does like more performances such as Hustlers or like Unstoppable. That's the name of that wrestling film she has. But I wish she did stuff more films like Unstoppable, like Hustlers, because she's actually a pretty decent actress when she wants to be. But with this, the mother she did last year really didn't help. So yeah, this thing just completely dumb. Script is horrible. It's such a horrendous mess. All right, number three is Craven the Hunter, and yes, out of all the three Spider-Man spin-offs, this was the worst. Craven the Hunter is abysmal. The dialogue in this thing was terrible. The acting was bad. The script was not so good. What was Aaron Taylor Johnson thinking with this? Is beyond me. They had literally a whole year to get this thing right, and because they delayed from a whole year, but no way that they they still botched this film big time. It's just so terrible, and Russell Crowe was terrible in this. Fred Heshinger, who plays the chameleon, he should have had a better role here. It's just it's so boring. I almost fell asleep a couple of times watching this. And thankfully, we're probably not going to get Craven 2 because the box office was abysmal. All right, number two is The Crow. Now, of course, I knew this wasn't going to be all that great, especially you have the director behind Ghost in the Shell doing this. And, I didn't mind them actually making this, by the way. Like, when they announced that they were going to do a new Crow, I'm like, okay, that could be cool. Bill Skarsgård, who, by the way, is really good in Nosferatu. But holy cow, The Crow is one of the worst things I've seen this whole year. Probably the worst comic book film this whole year. Like in the year with the likes of Madam Web, Venom, Last Dance, Craven. This just might take the cake as the worst comic book film this whole year. It's just a terrible one. Like FK Twigs acting in this was horrible. The direction, style, dialogue was terrible. It's just not a good one. And my number one worst movie of the year. This one breaks my heart because the director of this is one of the all-time greatest filmmakers ever. And I was actually looking forward to seeing this. Like when I did my top anticipated films of 2024, this was in my top five because I like the director and all. My number one worst movie of the year is Megalopolis, or as you'll probably call it, Megaflopolis, because this thing was a flop. Megalopolis is one of the worst piece of garbage I have seen this whole year. It was completely boring, terrible dialogue. The effects in this thing wasn't all that great. It's such a shame too, because this is its own director of Francis Ford Coppola, behind the likes of the Godfather trilogies, Apocalypse Now, the Rainmaker. He's made some terrific films over the years, and this is probably the worst thing he has ever put out. And I do like the cast involved. Like you have Adam Driver, who I like, Natalie Manuel, uh, not much John Voight. You also have Lawrence Fishburne. The list goes on and on. Shia LaBeouf is terrific. Giancarlo Esposito. You have some great cast members in this, but this thing just didn't do anything for me. It's just so bad, so boring, and it became mega flopless. So yeah, but that's pretty much it there. Here is my quick rundown. 10 Argyle, 9 Venom the Last Dance, 8 Madam Web, 7 Rebel Moon Part 2 The Scargiver, 6 The Strangers Chapter 1, 5 Horizon and America Saga, 4 Adeles, 3, Craven the Hunter, 2, The Crow, and number 1, Megalopolis. Now, there's other ones I probably could have added too. Let me see some other lists. Night Swim, definitely. That would definitely be my honorable mention. Imaginary. Let's see. I know people saying, "Hey, where's Joker Full ADX?" While I will admit that movie was disappointing, I didn't really hate it as most people did. Frankly, I think Venom, Last Dance, Madam Web, Craven, and The Crow were far worse than Joker. Let's see what else we got here. The Front Room was pretty disappointing. Let's see. Founders Day, definitely that will be on my list or honorable mention. Let's see, what else we got here? The Liam Neeson film In the Land of Saints and Sinners, Irish Wish. Um, Summer Camp was pretty terrible. Boneyard with Mel Gibson, that was abysmal. I mean, yeah, the list goes on and on. There's lots of pretty poorly bad films this year that I saw. But Lemon's Hair and Purple Crayon would definitely be my honorable mention. Definitely Uglies with Joey King. But let me let you guys, what are some of your worst films of 2024? Rock Hospital, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for notification. This is Timmy.